the last part of this, so once we've had a number of negotiation meetings with the union, moving the enterprise agreement to conclusion is another very important part of the process. So once you've given the union response to their claims, put forward the skeleton agreement. Say, this is the agreement we're proposing with the things that we've agreed to. And really almost say to them, right, we've agreed to some of these things, we've not agreed to others, this is the proposed agreement, here it is. And really not put the pressure, but put the onus then back on the union to say, we want this to move forward quickly. We will give your employees increases from this date if we can agree to this by this date. If they want to drag things out, well then make it clear that we're not going to backdate indefinitely any new increases. So eliminate the incentive for unnecessary or unreasonable delay on the part of the unions. That's another good tactic. Consider your lodgement requirements in advance. There is the notice of employee rights that you must issue to every employee. There are voting requirements. You generally need to provide the agreement to employees at least 7 days before the vote, and you can't essentially enter into any agreement for the enterprise agreement at least 14 days after the first notice of employee representation or rights was issued. Practically, you're never going to do that anyway, but that's another timeline requirement around this. The other thing I'd recommend you do in these situations is appoint a bargaining representative. We act as a bargaining representative for many employers in negotiating enterprise agreements. And the reason we recommend that is because if you're kind of juggling this with your day-to-day jobs internally, well, number one, do you have the expertise? But number two, are you really going to move the EBA along in a constructive and timely manner? So that's another part of it that's quite important. Once you've done all of that, lodge with the Fair Work Commission and obviously respond to their queries accordingly. The commissioner that's assigned to the matter will look at the agreement, they'll look at the better off overall test and make a judgment on whether or not they think that the agreement should be approved. So that is a bit about enterprise agreements. And look, I know that might be unfamiliar territory for some of you here today. Maybe you've never encountered an enterprise agreement before, but they are very common. They're very common in NFPs. So it's good to understand at least that planning phase, the negotiation phase, and moving it to conclusion, so that if you ever encounter this, you've got some knowledge about what's involved. So before I move to this part about the mask, I'm just going to say, is anyone got any questions? Yes, James.
So what's the advantage of an enterprise agreement?
The short answer is there isn't one. The short answer is that, look, in theory, what an enterprise agreement does is it can create flexibilities for employers. You don't have to follow the modern award terms per se, but you do need to be better off overall. So ultimately, if you have a flexibility in the agreement that's different from the award, you kind of need to make up for it somewhere else. So whether that's higher wages or things like that, that might be the way of doing it. My view on enterprise agreements is probably fairly negative in the sense that I see them as they're a necessity in some points, but it's not something that I would ever proactively go out and do unless I'm a construction business who wants to get on bigger sites, unless I'm an organisation that's already got one, and inevitably I'm going to, once you've got an EBA, you've got it for life, essentially, because you're going to have to renegotiate it. The chances of getting an EBA terminated, very, very difficult in any situation. Why would an employee or a group of employees want to agree to terminate an enterprise agreement just to go back to the award conditions, even if it was with a promise that the rates would still be the same? So the reality is you're dealing with circumstances where you've either got an enterprise agreement, you're forced into one because of a majority support determination, or you're a construction business that wants to get on a principal contractor's books for big projects, and in order to appease them as a business necessity, you need to have one. Yeah.